What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer. There were some new card announcements for Fallen of Albaz, so I thought, what better time is there to try to figure all this out? Because to me, it's so confusing where the Fallen of Albaz falls in. Because the card Fallen of Albaz seems to show up on every single card in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That comes out now. There's even a Springan's card that has it. So I said, you know what? Let's look at every single card that has to do with it and see if we can figure out a theme or what's going on. I know a lot of it probably has to do with like the lore behind the art of it, so that's like probably the main answer. But I want to see if there's like a way like to find out where this card even comes from, and like let's just front load it, dude. Let's just, what is this card, and then I'll review the new cards. That's probably the most important part, and then we'll look at everything else. All right, so this is it. This is the main man. This is like the main card of Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. If this card, and it's also getting a structure deck, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can discard one card, fusion one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters on either field as fusion material, including this card, but you cannot use other monsters you control as fusion material. You can only use this effect if this card's name once per turn. So it's kind of good. It's like a respondable super poly, I guess. So this is the card that they want to make like the greatest thing of all time since sliced bread. All right, so here, let's just get going into the new announced cards. This is Unlikely Swordsoul Allies. Nah, man. Isn't Swordsoul the name of the new cards that make tokens? I don't want to think about it too much, to be honest with you. Okay, when a monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, negate the attack. Then if you control a fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as material, you can destroy the monster that declared an attack. If a monster is banished face up, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard. Special summon one light spellcaster monster whose attack equals its own defense from your hand or graveyard. That just seems kind of slow, doesn't it? Like if your opponent sets up negates, then whoops. I don't really like that too much. Do any of these? So, okay, I'm guessing this is probably one of the targets, the new Ecclesia. Alright, well, I honestly don't think that's very good for real, but we'll keep moving on. Oh, this is a Springan's card, isn't it? Alright. I feel like I'm going to have to look at the Springan's cards too now. If you have a fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as material on your field or in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one of your branded spells and traps that is banished or in your deck or in your graveyard to your hand, then place one card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. You can only use one of these cards named once per turn. I don't think you'll be using this to Tri-Brigades, but I guess these are all kind of like other dimensional like versions of these different cards, I'm guessing. Maybe I'll do a whole lore episode and see if I can do a little bit of studying here. Okay, free special summon, you could add a branded spell and trap, and I think, are these branded? I don't know. Okay, so I guess it's all of these Stigmatica stuff, so cool, I suppose. Alright, we'll keep going. That's a decent card for sure. I think that in the branded deck, if you're playing branded, you'll definitely be using that card. It's a free special summon too. Although I don't know what link plays you're going into, or XYZ. Okay, so this is Ecclesia the Virtuous in white. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Ecclesia the Virtuous in white once per turn this way. You can only use each of the following effects of this card's name once per turn. Jeez. During the main phase, quick effect, you can tribute this card. Special summon one Swordsoul monster, or... Hold on, now I get a... I think Swordsoul is the whole archetype with tokens. It is. Why these? What deck does this belong in? Holy moly! All right. Special summon one Swordsoul monster or one Fallen of Albaz from your hand or deck. During the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to your graveyard this turn, you can add this card from your graveyard to your hand. So you can tribute it anyways. I don't think, like, so far your normal summon doesn't seem all that important. So, like, it's cool that it's a free special summon technically, but I don't really like going second cards, like, which kind of feels like what this is supposed to be. But nonetheless, all right. I think it's searchable through, Disciple of the Nadir. But would you always not to search out regular Ecclesia? I don't know. Maybe it's a better Ecclesia going second or something, and it's like a one of. Of course, there's just a random Tri-Brigade card that has Fallen of Albaz in its text. When your opponent, this is Tri-Brigade Mercurier, level 4, Winged Beast, 800 attack, 0 defense. When your opponent activates a monster effect while I control a fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as material. Quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard and negate that effect. Whoa. Well, that's pretty cool. If this card is banned, it doesn't destroy the card, but it doesn't negate its effects. If this card is banished, you can add one Fallen of Albaz or one monster that lists that card in its text from your deck to your hand, except a copy of this card. You can only use each effect of this card's name once per turn. It's just any monster effect, too. It doesn't have to be from the extra deck. So this looks like a Despia card, I guess. So I'm leaning towards Despia like more and more as I read this stuff. So like Despia Dogmatika, because a lot of these, I haven't read a lot of these cards, so this is a lot of new to me. These are my first impressions. So all right. Okay, so this is another new card. It says Jubilation of the Branded. Reveal one monster in your hand and send one level 8 fusion monster with 2500 attack or defense of the same type from your extra deck to the graveyard. Then you can discard the revealed monster, and if you do, add one Fallen of Albaz or one monster that specifically lists that card in its text from your deck to your hand. So all of these ones I just read do that. But you do need to have that kind of monster. So what are these? Oh, I guess it's literally any of these. So all right, you have infinite options for the most part. I'm thinking you want to search this like 90% of the time. During the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to your graveyard this turn, you can add this card from your graveyard to your hand. Sick. Alright, so I feel like we're finally getting the first few cards that are trying to push it in a certain direction. And that's Branded. And maybe it's Swordsoul. I don't know. Okay, so this is a continuous spell card. The activation of your cards and effects that include an effect that fusion summon a fusion monster cannot be negated. So basically this becomes a 2-card super poly. It's still not horrible. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a monster is fusion summoned this way. If you fusion summon a fusion monster, you can add one Fallen of Albaz or one monster that lists that card in its text from your deck to your hand. Again, like, these two cards put in a lot of work, and this one does too. So you're searching a monster negate 90% of the time if it's not in your hand. That I can get behind super duper hard. So these cards, by far, the best ones that they printed. They're pushing this, and now they're pushing, I think, finally in the right direction. And in these kind of replace themselves too. Cool beans. All right, let's look at everything else and then, see what we have in whole, and I'll give my final opinions. But the new cards, barring probably this one, is sick. Especially because these are branded cards. So this card becomes infinitely better, in my opinion. All right, so this is Albion the Shrouded Dragon. This card name becomes Fallen of Albaz while in the field or graveyard. All right, okay. Because I think this card's pretty good. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send one Fallen of Albaz or one branded spell or trap from your hand or deck to the graveyard. Apply the following effects based on where it was sent from. Deck. Place this card on the bottom of the deck. Then if you place this card from your hand, draw one card. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send one Fallen of Albaz or... Because this one adds to the end phase. If you fusion summon was sent this turn, so technically you could Foolish Burial this and then add it to your hand after, and at the end phase, right? I wonder if you can add this during your end phase and then use it, right? You can Foolish Burial it, add it to your hand. It's a quick play spell, so then you do that, and you can add a monster negate, basically. But you have to have a fusion summon monster. Those are just theories, but that's what I'm thinking. So I like the idea that this name changes because that definitely gives you more options, and this deck definitely needs it. I think we all know what this Dear Servant does. You get to add a Dogmatic or Fallen of Albaz. I wish this said from anywhere, but if you need a Fallen of Albaz, it makes it work. I don't know if you can just put Dogmatic into anything. I'm not sure if it works for the whole branded archetype because you really actually need a fusion summon. That seems to be very important. That kind of works against it, although maybe Dogmatika is like the corrupted version of these cards, although they kind of look like heroes. Maybe these are the... maybe like Fallen of Albaz is the evil or something. I don't know. But it feels like you need to use this card because it's so good. But, alright. This is branded in white. Fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material, including a dragon monster. You can also banish monsters from your graveyard as material if you use Fallen of Albaz as fusion material from your hand field, or by banishing itself from the graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there, to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz this turn, you can set this card. So if you pitch it, you can add it to your hand, I guess. I hate that it says including a dragon monster because it doesn't actually do anything. There really is no, advantage. I guess if you can also banish it from the graveyard or something. I don't know. That card's just okay. This is Bond, or Branded Bond. Sure. It's a branded spell and trap, which is more important. Special summon one of your Fallen of Albaz that is banished in your hand or in your graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz, you can set this card. So it looks like a lot of them have that. So whatever it pitches, it wants you to be able to add it back to your hand, which I can get behind. This is branded in red. You're going to have to big brain this because everything is a branded spell, and now all of your branded spells are searchable. So hopefully I can get smart enough to use this deck. Target one Despia monster or one Fallen of Albaz in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Then you can fusion summon one level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck by using fusion materials listed on it from your hand or field, but it cannot attack directly this turn. From your hand or field, by banishing your hand or field, but cannot attack directly this turn. Okay. I feel like you're going to add it to your hand and use it to fusion summon or something. Cool, I suppose. I guess if the cards that you're, fusion summoning have effects to that would be cool. Sure. I guess the idea is that you're trying to neg as least as possible. So you're adding it to your hand and fusion summoning, so you're kind of not going neg 2 to fusion summon. That's pretty neat, I suppose. Here's a random Springan's card, I suppose. If you control a Springan's monster, choose one opponent-made monster known. If a monster is face up in that zone during this turn, it cannot attack directly. Also, its effects are negated. If no monsters in that zone, it cannot be used this turn. If you control a fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as material, you can choose 2 zones instead. I wish this was a branded trap, to be honest with you. Because then technically, you have to control Spriggan's monster. I don't know why Spriggans has to be involved in any of this. I'm going to try my best to ignore it, but I think there are a couple more cards that do that. This is Dogmatic Encounter. Activate one of these effects. Special summon Dogmatica monster or Fallen of Albaz from your hand. So far, useless. Add to your hand or special summon one Dogmatica or Fallen of Albaz from your graveyard. We can ignore that card. Not very good. Screams of the Branded. If a fusion monster was sent to your graveyard this turn, which can be done with Disciple of Nadir, it feels like you gotta use Dogmatic. You need these cards to be sent to the graveyard this turn. So many of the cards have that effect, to be honest with you. Anyways, special summon, Actually, I want to special summon one Dogmatica monster fallen out from your hand. Oh, no, I just read that one. If a fusion monster was sent to your graveyard this turn, special summon one of your fusion monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. If a fusion monster was sent to your graveyard this turn, special summon one of your fusion monsters that was banished or in your graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, because it was sent there to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz this turn, you can set this card. Huh. I hate that. Why is this a trap card? Why does it have to be this turn? That's what I think makes this card very bad. Because you can send it off of, off of your Nadir Servant, but if it has to be this turn, then no, I'm going to say. Spriggan's Call. Target one Spriggan's monster or Fallen of Albaz in your graveyard, special summon it. During either player's turn, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card and one fusion monster from your graveyard. Then target one Spriggan's Xyz monster you control. Attach one fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as material from your extra deck to that monster as material. Of all the Spriggan's decks that I've played, I don't think any of them are using Fallen of Albaz, but there's more cards that have it in its name than I thought. Because when I was doing this video, I literally just looked up Fallen of Albaz and dumped every card that was in there. Okay, this is Judgment of the Branded. We're back in the branded stuff, thankfully. Target 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster you control. Destroy all monsters your opponent controls with equal or higher attack than that monster. Do any of these have a low attack? 25, I guess, seems to be. Anything higher than 25? Yeah, I don't think that's very good. So we'll just move on from that one. This is Dramaturge of Despia. Let's just call it Drama of Despia. That sounds like a much better name. If a Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link monster is special summoned, except during the damage step, you can target one effect monster on the field, negate its effects until the end of this turn. If this card is in the hand or field is used as material for a Fusion summon and sent to the graveyard or banished, you can special summon this card. So this is obviously one of the best cards that's ever come out for Despia, or Fallen of Albaz, whatever you want to call it, because they all seem to be connected somehow. This is like a 3,000 attack body, quick effect. Oh, maybe it's not a quick effect. Oh, no, if a Fusion Link monster is special summon. So, like, yeah, it's definitely, like, anytime that effect happens, you can negate a face-up card. So, that is good. And if it's banished or special summon, this is a must-have in any of these, I'm pretty sure. Okay, this looks like a new Despia card. Ad libitum of Despia. During your main phase, you can make all face-up monster currently on the field gain 100 attack equal to their level times 100 until the end of your opponent's turn. Okay, so I guess that counts for your opponents too. If this card is used material for a Fusion summon from the hand or field and sent to the graveyard or banished, excuse me, you can target one of your Despia monsters or one of your level 8 or higher Fusion monsters that is banished or in your graveyard, special summon it. Now, does this say cannot, special summon monsters from the extra deck? So if you use Nadir Servant and can you revive it technically with Ad libitum? Because it's not special summon monsters. I don't know if that. I guess that counts as special summoning a monster from the extra deck, even isn't a proper special summon from the extra deck. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't really know the answer to that question, but that's definitely something that hopefully someone can answer for me. Otherwise, I have no idea. It could be interesting if it can do that though, and that's about it. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So that is a very good thing. Like, this card is vitally important. If a face-up Fusion monster you control is destroyed by a battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls, special summon this card, and if you do, negate the targeted monster's effects until the end of this turn. Oh, sick, dude. This card is just absolutely disgusting. Yeah, no, this is like the best card in the deck. I'm leaning down. Okay, I'm going further and further into the Despia range here because these are the two best cards, and it searches these ones, and all of them end up searching this one now. So cool. We're getting somewhere with this, and I'm hopefully like this and these will be in the structure deck. It can literally be anything, though. This is Despian Tragedy. If this card is sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, you can add one Despia monster from your deck to your hand, except to copy this card. I wish it searched Fallen of Albaz, but sure. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one branded spell or trap in your graveyard, set it to your field. That's unfortunate, because that's a quick play spell. That's so close yet so far. Adding Despia monsters, I suppose, is good. This one I'm on the fence about, because I don't know what's so good that you can add to your hand that you can immediately activate, to be honest with you. When your opponent activates, this is Despian Calamity. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a face-up Despia monster you control, you can discard this card and negate the activation. Better have a good graveyard effect. If this card is in your graveyard, quick effect, you contribute one Fusion monster, special summon this card. I don't like that card, to be honest. Like, you're just like depending on your opponent to do stuff. Never like to depend on your opponent, even if it is a fairly common effect. Like, sometimes it'll be sitting in your hand and you'll like regret having it. All right, this is a branded opening. So there's when it says search a branded spell and trap, it's like almost you have as many options as like Dark Magician at this point. Discard one card, then take one Despia monster from your deck, either add it to your hand or special summon it in defense position, also for the rest of this turn. After this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters. That's fine. There's only fusion monsters in the archetype. No problemo. If a fusion monster you control will be destroyed by card effects, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. I like Curtain Raiser because there's technically really not a lot of great options when it comes to discarding, but it lets you special summon this bad boy from the deck. So, because these only, if you fusion summon, you can add one Fallen. What is the one that sets it? Does it have to be Fallen of Albaz, or can it be anything? Let's see. During the end phase of a fusion monster was sent to your graveyard's turn. Oh, I don't know. I was hoping maybe one of these would discard and would set themselves at the end of this turn, but I think it's only the effect of Fallen of Albaz. This is the field spell. During your main phase, this is Despia, Theater of the Branded. You can fusion summon 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. If a face-up non-fusion fairy monster you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect or is destroyed by battle, you can target 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So just having a polymerization for the most part that is obviously you can use it every turn. That's what makes this card so good. So this is obviously a huge target for your opponent to end up destroying. The rest of it is Despia stuff. I'll try to go as quick as possible through it because most of us Dogmatika. Most of us already know what this card does. This is Dogmatic Nexus. Cannot be normal summon or set. Must be special summoned by its own effect. You can target 4 Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link monsters in your graveyard. Special summon this card from your hand. If you do, banish them. I had to start it with damage step. If this card battles a special summon monster, destroy all your opponent's attack position monsters, then inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent for each Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link destroyed by this effect. So, not good. Floor, if you control a Dogmatica, you can special summon from the hand, negate a face-up attack position monster. That's pretty cool. This is Dogmatica Atheia. If a Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link monster is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned from your hand, you can target 1 Dogmatica card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. When your opponent monster declares an attack, you can make all Dogmatica monsters you control gain 500 attack. Not very good. This is Dogmatic Maximus. Lets you send 2 extra deck monsters to the graveyard, which can obviously send off a lot of effects, which is pretty cool. Also, you can unspecial summon monsters from the extra deck this turn. So, it's so close to working with it, but that restriction kind of kills you for the most part. I don't know. This is Dogmatic Atheia, the Iron Punch. Cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster special summon from the extra deck. You can only use the following effects of this card's name once per turn. If a monster special summoned from the extra deck is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can target 1 face-up monster in the field that was special summoned from the extra deck. It gains 600 attack. Or this card gains 600 attack and it loses 600. It doesn't matter. Ecclesia searches basically everything in the Dogmatica stuff, so we all know what this card does. This is Dogmatic Atheia, the Enlightened. Cannot be destroyed by battle with the monster from the extra deck. And you can only use the following effects of this card's name once per turn. If a monster special summoned from the extra deck is on the field, you can special summon this card. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 Dogmatica monster from your deck, except something else. If you're playing a pure Dogmatica, I guess that would kind of work. There's 2 rituals. One just came out, so this is like a new card announcement, I guess. Let's look at the first one. I don't really remember what it does. Cannot be special. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. Interesting. If your opponent activates a card, so this card you definitely would never use with any of the Fallen of Albaz stuff. If your opponent activates a card or effect, you can send 1 monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do, look at your opponent's extra deck and send 1 monster from it to the graveyard. Then this card gains attack equal to half the combined attack of this monster sent to the graveyard. Doesn't really negate anything, so that's not very good. Let's look at the new one, though. Wide Exalted of Dogmatika. You can ritual summon this card using Dogmatica Cabre, which might be the new card. Yes, it is. If this card is ritual summoned, you can target 2 face-up monsters on the field. One of those monsters gains attack equal to the other monster. Your level 8 or higher Dogmatica monsters cannot be destroyed by battle. If a monster is special summoned from your opponent's extra deck, you can look at your opponent's extra deck and send 1 monster from it to the graveyard. Kind of does the same thing, I suppose. Is this not better? I guess all this is like a trigger, like your opponent special summons, you gotta wait for the activate effect. There is some value here, and it's like definitely less restrictive than this one, but trying to force this into it sounds really difficult. The only thing that's good is that it doesn't stop you from special summoning from the extra deck, which you have to appreciate. This is something that I'm going to put in the back burners because I feel like this could be interesting because it doesn't work directly against all of these cards. This is Dogmatic Calamity. Okay, this is a ritual summon spell. When you use a ritual summon any Dogmatica ritual monster, you must also tribute monsters from your hand or field whose total levels exactly equal the level, oh my gosh, of the ritual monster you ritual summon, or send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard whose levels equal the level of the ritual monster you ritual summon. Good lord. For the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. It cannot be like interesting. I don't know. It feels too hard to get this to work. This card can be used to ritual summon any Dogmatica ritual monster from your hand or graveyard. Okay, interesting. You can also tribute monsters from your hand or field and or banish fusion or synchro monsters from your graveyard whose total levels equal or exceed the ritual monster you ritual summon. This already sounds way better. Then if both White Knight of Dogmatica and White Exalted of Dogmatica on the field, you can look at either extra deck and send one monster from it to the graveyard. So the cool thing is, I guess, is that you can use your Disciple to add this card to your hand because you can send the synchro. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but when it's sent to the graveyard, you can add a ritual. And then you basically get to add both of them to your hand because it lets you add a Dogmatica card and the ritual, which could be pretty cool, I guess. What is White Knight of Dogmatica? Oh, I see. If both are on the field, what are you going to ritual summon 3 times or something? What a silly, silly effect. We're almost done here, and then we'll go look at the extra deck, but I did want to look at all these cards to get a full picture of it, because sometimes it's kind of hard to understand. This is an equip spell. If the equipped monster is a Dogmatica monster, it gains attack equal to its level times 100. If not, it loses 200 attack for each Dogmatica monster you control. Why would you equip this to anything else? If this card is sent to the graveyard because the equipped monster is destroyed, you can send one monster from the extra deck to the graveyard. That's pretty decent. Neither player, this is a field spell, I didn't even know they had one. Neither player can target Dogmatica monster you control with effects of monsters that were special summoned from the extra deck. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. After damage calculation, if your Dogmatica monster battled an opponent's monster, you can destroy that opponent's monster. That's like that Golden Castle effect, I'm pretty sure. If this face-up card in the field zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can have each player send one monster from the extra deck to the graveyard. Pretty cool. That's a decent card for pure Dogmatica stuff. I've never seen a deck like that, but I don't think it's a bad idea to maybe try someday. This is Dogmatic Encounter. You can special summon one Dogmatica monster or Fallen Albaz from your hand. I think I already looked at this card, if I'm not mistaken. I did. Okay, so that one wasn't good. This is Dogmatic of Genesis. Target one banished fusion, synchro, exceed, or link monster. I think I looked at Genesis too, right? Maybe not. You can target one banished fusion, synchro, exceed, or link monster and one effect monster your opponent controls of the same type. Return that banished monster to the extra deck, and if you do, negate the effects of that monster your opponent controls. I feel like it's kind of hard right now to banish what you want, so it's just really situational. It takes a lot of setup, and I'm not sure if that's worth it, to be honest with you. And it's not really searchable right now. You wouldn't search it over Dogmatica Punishment, that's for sure. We all know what this card does. Lets you send an extra deck, and a lot of good stuff, a lot of advantage. All right, let's go to the extra deck here. Obviously, so many of these are just amazing super poly targets. So this is one Despia plus one light or dark a monster. Like, that's insane. So while you control this fusion summon card, your opponent must pay 600 life points to activate cards or effects. Pretty cool burn. If your opponent controls a ritual, fusion, synchro, exceed, or link monster, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your graveyard but banish it when it leaves the field. Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard to get rid of monster. 600 is quite a bit, to be honest with you, especially later in games. It can like kind of win you the duel. So I don't think you should lead with this, but I definitely think it's a decent option later in the game. It says Desmian Quartus. Despia, one Despia monster, one lighter dark monster, which is cool. It's kind of the same thing. During the main phase, quick effect. You can change the attack of all monsters currently on the field to 0 until the end of this turn, except level 8 or higher fusion monsters. If this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can add your hand or special summon one Fallen of Albaz or one Despia monster from your deck, except a copy of this card. So what you're probably going to end up doing is always special summoning Jester. That's what I'm thinking. So that's pretty neat. This is Springan the Iron Dash Dragon. One Fallen of Albaz plus one effect monster special summoned this turn. Again, Super Poly is always going to be like probably like anything else after these cards do. Like that's just bonus, I guess. During your main phase, you can move this card you control to another of your main monster zones. Then you can destroy all other face-up cards in this card's column. Wow. Phew, that's pretty nuts. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent to this turn, you can add to your hand or special summon one Spriggan's monster or one Fall of Albaz from your deck. So constantly just special summoning Albaz from the deck is obviously like the mainstay of this, which you gotta appreciate. It's pretty easy to, fusion summon these, which is good too. This is Fallen of Albaz plus one level 8 or higher monster. There's no way you're not going to be able to super poly something on your opponent's field at this point. Cannot be destroyed by battle. While you control this fusion summon card, your opponent cannot target any other monsters you control with monster effects, which is pretty neat. Making Desmian of Calamity even worse, to be honest with you. During your end phase, if this card is... that's all it does. If this card is in the graveyard because it was sent to this turn, you can add to your hand or special summon one Tri-Brigade monster. Okay. Or one Fallen of Albaz. Or no. Now this makes much more sense because this is a Tri-Brigade monster. Can you send this from your... Yeah, Warfield. Yeah, let's go. Now this card, it makes way more sense. Sick. So you can just special summon this bad boy and like force them to get rid of it real quick. Well, actually, not really, but because it's during the end phase. I don't know. That's decent enough. I wish it would honestly just add it to your hand. Oh, you can add to your hand or special summon. I can't read. Reading's hard. That's cool. This card, I got a little more appreciation. Yeah, because if you can fusion summon this card and get rid of it off the field through whatever means necessary, or maybe you just use this for a fusion summon or something and add, this Tri-Brigade monster to your hand. That would be pretty cool. That's what I'm thinking. So, all right. Fallen of Albaz plus one monster with 2,500 or more attack. That covers everything else when it comes to Super Poly. Gains attack equal to the combined original levels of the monsters used for its ritual summon, or fusion summon times 100. So that's at least 400 more. So that's pretty cool. That'll be pretty good. It is unaffected. After this card is fusion summoned for the rest of its turn, is unaffected by activated effects of any monster special summoned from the extra deck. During the main phase, if this card is sent to the graveyard because it was spent to this turn, you can special summon one Fallen of Albaz or Dogmatica monster from your deck. Everyone knows that effect. This is Albion, the Branded Dragon. If this card is fusion summoned, you can fusion summon one level 8 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck, except a copy of this card, by banishing materials listed on it from your hand, field, or graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent to this turn, you can add to your hand or set one branded spell or trap directly from your deck. And this is a quick play spell. That's pretty cool, I guess. Sure, why not? Like, this is probably one of the more important cards because a lot of these have, like, if banished effects. I can't remember a lot of them off the top of my head, but I remember saying, like, if banished, which is pretty neat. So, this is Spriggan's Merrymaker. If this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you can send one Spriggan's monster from your deck to the graveyard. During your opponent's main or battle phase, you can banish this card until the end phase. Then if you banish this card with 2 or more Exceed material, you can also send one fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard that lists Fallen of Albaz as material. During the end phase, this card is in the graveyard because it was sent to this turn. So basically, that's like not a horrible effect. I mean, a lot of these are 4s. I don't know how like useful that is technically, but it could be. Especially now because the 4 pool is way higher. Like, all the new monsters are 4s. I know this is a Spriggan's card, but it seems to have a little bit of a juice to it, being able to send these and add cards to your hand, because all of them kind of, like this card, you know, if this card's in the graveyard, goes sent this turn, like, it sets you up for your plays next turn. It seems a little slow, like, off the top of my head, but I could see some use in that. Okay, this is Despian Proskinian. During the main phase, quick effect, you can target 1 fusion, synchro, exceed, or link monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, or special summon it to your field. This card is obviously like one of the best ones. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack or defense, whichever is higher. Best extra deck monster by far of all of these ones. I think I already went over this one. Yeah. So, all right. Whew, that with Swordsoul, Tri-Brigade, Despia, Spriggans, Fallen of Albaz is somehow connected to all these universes. Overall, like, the new cards seem to be the most important by far, so that's a good sign that they're moving in the right direction. Even though if it is a little like splintered all over the place, it seems like they're keying in on you know, Despia. They want you to use that and maybe some Dogmatica cards like at the end of your turn, whenever you're done doing all your other stuff. That's my impression. Let me know what you guys think though in the comment section down below. Other than that, that's going to do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.